Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Keep Moving from This Mountain, address at Spelman College on 10 April 1960 concerning the mountain of materialism. We must also move out of the mountain of practical materialism. We have been in it long enough. I am not speaking now of metaphysical materialism, the materialism which says in substance that all reality can be explained in terms of matter in motion and that life is merely a physiological process with a physiological meaning. We need to move out of that mountain also, I guess, but I'm talking about another type of materialism, not a theoretical materialism, which is usually confined to a sophisticated few. I am speaking of practical materialism, which means living as if we're nothing else, if there's nothing else that had reality but fame and material objects. We operate or live rather in two realms, so to speak. The within of a man's life, which is the realm of culture, and the without, that is the realm of civilization. There is structure, which is the realm of means, and destiny, which is the realm of ends, preliminary concerns, which are the realm of science and technology, ultimate concerns, which are the realm of morals and ethical religion. The great danger that faces our civilization is that we will not allow the without of life to absorb the within, that we will allow destiny to get tied up in structure, that we will allow our preliminary concerns to take precedence over ultimate concern. We have been in this mountain long enough. One of the dangers we must always watch in our nation and in our system under which we live is known as capitalism. As you know, capitalism stresses the profit motive. Of course, capitalism has done some marvelous things for our nation and the world. Through this economic system, we have been able to build up the greatest system of production that the world has ever known, and we have become the richest nation in the world. All of this is marvelous, but the danger point is that we will become so involved in the profit making and profit getting aspects of capitalism that we forget certain ends of life. There's always the danger that we will become more concerned about making a living than making a life, that we will not keep that line of division between life and one's livelihood. And there is also the danger that our system can lead to tragic exploitation. We must come out of the mountain and become concerned about a more humane and just economic order. And I say this afternoon that we cannot solve this problem by turning to communism. Communism is based on an ethical relativism and a metaphysical materialism that no Christian can accept. I do not believe that in America we must use our vast resources of wealth to bridge the gulf between abject, deadening poverty and superfluous, inordinate wealth. God has left enough space in this universe for all of his children to have the basic necessities of life. As I have traveled around the world, around the Middle East and in India and Africa, I have always been moved and deeply concerned about the poverty in those countries. Poverty there is so widespread because these people have been exploited economically and dominated politically by foreign powers. Every time I look and notice these conditions, I start thinking about the fact in the United States of America, we spend almost $10 billion a year to store surplus food that we have in the nation. And I say to myself, as I look at these conditions, I know where we can store that food free of charge in the wrinkled stomach of hungry men and women and children of God all over the world. If the United States is to survive, along with all citizens of the world, we must come out of this mountain of practical materialism, which can be transformed from a legitimate individualism into a rugged individualism. And we must move out of that into a proper concern for all humanity, into a proper concern for every individual, and a proper concern in our individual lives for what we call the within of life, the realm of destiny. As you can tell, MLK didn't touch long enough on the ideal of materialism. To me, this one seemed a little more straightforward because he got right to the point of what I believe the issues are that we're having. So I have 4 points I'm going to address concerning this speech, and you can leave it in the comments, but of particular interest is more of the first point is a question. Anyone right now that's listening that is of Black heritage, do you feel as if we are under the obligation to give and to donate to Black owned? Yes, no, maybe. Please explain, as this is a nuanced and complicated question. Are we as Black people obligated to support and give to Black owned businesses? I felt number 2, the second point, is that MLK was spot on, that we have an issue with delayed gratification within our communities. It's not uncommon in the Black community to see people that had fun shopping and got nice things. And yet sometimes their light bill doesn't get paid. Sometimes their apartment or house note don't get paid. We get caught in the minutia of keeping up with the Joneses. And I suspect that MLK started to learn and understand that in his day. And so for that, I have the utmost respect. But there are two subcategories that I'm going to give credence to when it comes to delayed gratification. Number 1, I have to acknowledge that in the greater part of American culture recently, it's been less than 200 years since freedom. And we as a people hadn't been able to participate in those things. So people probably started to overdo it because they were unable to, or their ancestors before them were unable to. The things we can do now, our great-great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents who got freed from slavery could only imagine that. When they were being born into slavery, they had no way of knowing that Lincoln was going to emancipate them, much less that we were going to be in a society where we can participate. So because we were unable to, this is why you get people who probably overindulge now. Number 2, he brought up something in that part of the speech, something to the effect of living for today instead of thinking of the future. But I'm paraphrasing that. That comes to the second point of delayed gratification, is you may as well live for today because you may not have tomorrow. To be fair, in MLK's time, there was a high number of lynchings. You never knew one way or another if someone was going to come take you out of your house and perform acts on you. You didn't know one way or another if someone was going to target you because they didn't like that you were related to someone in the civil rights movement. You didn't know one way or another how long your suffering could go based on who you were related to or associated with. So that could play into people's delayed gratification. I'm not saying it's right, but for the particular time frame, I understand it. We just have to find a way to heal that now. Number 3, he talks about the destruction of institutions. This is where MLK has to be careful, because capitalism as a whole, I'm glad he gave a balanced view. But what I think he's referring to where he doesn't have to be careful is that when we had material things such as Wall Street and Harlem, those things still were infiltrated by people who ultimately may have played a part in their demise. Black Wall Street was basically a massacre. It was basically a demise. Harlem, you can go look back and forth. There could be many reasons why Harlem went down. And it's possible that people take advantage of movements within a time because you never knew when another was going to come along. Now, this fourth and last point, I'm going to make a lot of people mad. So I want people who shop name brand to understand, first off, I support businesses regardless of race. And I'm giving this disclaimer because I don't like racist people. I'm myself not a racist. Even as a black woman, my husband's white and Asian. So I'm not saying because I'm married to a white and Asian person, that doesn't mean I can't be racist. I just know I'm not. So I'm not going to push that you have to shop a certain thing because you are a race. That first question or that first point was just a way to get you to think. But I'm going to tell you this fourth and final point is my pet peeve. Why is it that as a people, we will go shop brands who have come out, and I'm not saying their names because you know who they are, and openly said they don't want our business, when there are thousands more brands that would happily take you, or you can create your own? I want that. I'm actually gonna leave that as a question because I was gonna have a huge conversation. Somebody please answer that. I want that to be a question, just like that first point, this fourth and final point. Why is it that as a people, we will go and continue to support and shop brands that we know and have openly said they would prefer us to not use them culturally? All right, I'll leave y'all with that mountain of materialism. And now I'll move on to the next one, which is, I think is segregation. Thanks. Have a great evening.